Hello again everybody, this is the second game of the Blood on the Sand Warhammer tournament in Lowestoft, and this is my Elves against Paul's Beastmen. So his army that I've got noted down here is he's got level 4 of beasts, which I believe is his general, a level 4 of shadow. He's then got 4 level 1s. He's got 40 Bestigor, I think it's a 20 or a 25 man Gore unit, then a 40 man Gore unit, and he's got 2 Razor Gores, and he's got 2 units of 5 Ungores, and he's also got a, I'm not sure what it is, the Beastman character that's got his battle standard bearer, and he's going to be in that Gore herd. So starting off here with his deployment, he's got his Razor Gore on the left, then the 5 Raiders, 40 Bestigor, then he's got his bunker of Gore with, I think there's a level 1, his level 4 of beasts in that unit, and then behind those there's 2 level 1s, and over on the other side he's got his 40 Gore with his BSB, and he's got his level 4 of shadow in this one, I think, and I think there's a level, there must be a level 1 in there as well somewhere, and then to the right of those guys there's 5 Ungore and Razor Gore in the woods. And this is shown after I've done my vanguards, but on the right I've put my 5 Illyrian Reavers, 2 Eagles, 15 Archers, then I've got my Silver Helms with the BSB, then I've put my Phoenix Guard unit with both mages inside, and over on the left I've got my 8 Swordmasters, 3 Repeater Bolt Throwers, 5 Reavers, and my Eagle, my Phoenix. So Beastmen get turn 1, and the Bestigor move up and wheel, and the Raiders move up to the wall. The Razor Gore moves up to the hedge, and then the rest of his lines just move up, and the Wizards move closer to the herdstone, keeping all of his wizards in the army within range of the stone. The Razor Gore moves up to the edge of the board, looking inwards, giving a good field of view to protect his flank, and in the Beastman magic phase he gets a load of dice, obviously because he's got his 6 channel attempts, plus he gets additional dice for being within such a distance of the stone, etc, etc. So in his magic phase he has 12 dice I think, and he casts Amber Spear on 1 Eagle doing 2 wounds, and everything else I managed to stop with Dispel dice. And onto Elves turn 1, my Reavers move up on the left for redirecting with the Bestigors, and the Swordmasters move up a little bit. The Phoenix has flown over to the centre where he may be more useful. My Silver Helms have just walked up, and the Archers have moved up a little bit. That's just they moved across a little bit, I believe. That's just to make sure I've got no intervening models when taking shots there. And the Reavers have moved up a little bit more just to tempt the Razor Gore that's over on the right, and I've also sent 1 Eagle over there which is looking back towards my lines, and his purpose there is, if the Razor Gore charges in, I can get a counter charge provided my Reavers hold, or if the Razor Gore wins and overruns or reforms, he should sort of hit the building and stop, and then I can chuck both Eagles into him. So there's that. In the magic phase on this one I got 12 dice, so I start off with a Soul Quench which he dispels, and then I try Apotheosis on the Eagle which is then also dispelled, and I go for Fiery Convocation on the Gore herd which is scrolled. On the left hand side my Repeater Bolt Thrower shoots 6 shots at the Ungore that are up there, killing 4 of those and causing the last guy to flee, and he actually ends up running off the board, so I won't mention him again because he's off the board basically. The other 2 Repeater Bolt Throwers shoot at his Bestigor, and they do little or nothing, to be honest. And on to Beastman turn 2. So the Bestigor charge the Reavers, who elect to flee, and they attempt to complete the charge. So obviously that just goes as a failed charge, and the Razorgore moves over towards his centre, because he's obviously sort of thought it's going to be more use there, and the young Gores hop over and move up to the next wall. And over on the other side, the Razorgore charges the Illyrian Reavers, who hold, and then with his Gore he's pretty much holding the line. They're just nudging up a little bit more, still keeping his wizards within range of the stone. In the magic phase, it's another high number of dice, and he casts Curse of Anra here on the Silver Helms, which I let go. He then goes for a boosted Amber Spear on the Phoenix, which is dispelled, and I think he also tried a buff or a debuff on this Razorgore that's in combat, but that was also dealt with. After this combat, he's killed 2, and I've killed 2, so he's 1 by 1, and I stick in combat. On to Elves turn 2, I've charged my eagle into the flank of the Razorgore, and on the other side of the battlefield the Illyrian Reavers have rallied and moved up to get in the way of the Bestigor again, and just trying to keep him out of the line of sight of the Ungor. The Phoenix also moved up, and he basically moved up in between his 2 large hordes, so that he's out of line of sight of both hordes, but obviously he's in line of sight, tempting his bunker to charge. And the next picture, this picture here, basically shows my movement a bit better. You can see the Reavers there, and you can also see the Phoenix sitting in a fairly decent position. And this is showing in my magic phase. I got a good roll on the Winds of Magic again, so I've actually got 11 dice. So the first thing I do is to cast Drain Magic on the Silver Helms to dispel Curse of Amra here, and I sort of read that wrong, because I thought that it was until my next magic phase that anything cast against him is immediately dispelled, so that's to stop him from casting other stuff on him, but obviously I read that wrong, and it just brings anything to an end. So that was a little bit of a pointless cast really, and so he's let that go. I then do a soul quench on the Gore, which he doesn't dispel, but it only kills a couple, and then I go for a 6 dice fiery convocation, which goes off irresistibly and kills 15 Bestigor, which you see him taking off there, including the unit champion. The Bestigor then fail their leadership and panic and start to flee. And over here, because I've got the Aura Strikes First there, plus I've got higher initiative on my eagle, they clean up that Razorgore before he gets to attack. And in the shooting phase, which I haven't shown here, I unload all the repeater bolt throwers to the young Gore on the left hand side of the field, wiping that unit. So on to Beastmen turn 3. The Gore unit has charged the Phoenix, and the Phoenix is now on a 4+ ward save, because I had my highest roll as a 6 in the last turn, so obviously I moved my eagle before knowing the roll, but fortunately I got that, so I'm quite pleased with how that's turned out there. The Bestigor have rallied and they've reformed up to ranks, and the Razorgore has moved over to the left, but it's not shown in this picture. You'll see it in the picture coming up where he ended up. And in his magic phase, he attempts to buff his Gore and debuff my Phoenix, and here my priority is stopping anything like Mind Razor, and he did go to cast that, and I stopped it with my scroll. He also then tries a Miasma, I believe, or it's either a Miasma or he goes for Withering on the Phoenix, which I also dispel. And using the Lore attribute for one spell that he casts, he's actually swapped his level 4 with a level 1 from another unit. And after all the stuff that he wanted to do, he then realised he'd actually forgot to dispel Fiery Convocation. I mean, the spells are 19+ to cast, so it's not an easy thing to dispel anyway, and obviously he sort of let that one slip. So it obviously goes off again and manages to kill 17 Bestigor, but this time they pass their panic check, so they do not flee. And after combat here, I've killed a few Gore, and I've killed one of the mages, and I think I may have done a wound on another mage, not entirely sure, but they're steadfast and they stick in combat. So on to High Elf turn 3. The Reavers have moved up on the left, although I didn't realise it here, but I haven't angled them quite correctly. I'm aiming to stay out of line of sight of the Razor Gore, but it might be obvious here, but at the time I didn't see it, but they are actually still within line of sight there. And the Swordmasters have moved up, and the Reavers on the right have also moved up with the Eagle, basically to march block the Gore, and also to give me a possible charge into those couple of mages on the next turn. In the magic phase, I roll a bit lower than I have been, and I get a couple of soul quenches out, and Fiery Convocation kills 4 Bestigor, leaving the unit now at 3 guys. Although this is obviously before we've took the models off there. And in combat, the Phoenix kills 7 and doesn't take any wound, but the Gore are still steadfast and they hold. So Beastman turn 4, he charges the Razor Gore into the Reavers, who hold. And in the magic phase, he withers my Phoenix, but he only manages to roll 2 on the dice, which is -1 to his toughness, so it's not enough because he'll still be wounded on 6s in this combat. So he needed to get 1 more in there really, and the Phoenix then goes ahead and kills the remainder of the unit, barring 1 man and a mage, and the Bestigor also panic and flee, and I just reformed the Phoenix up. And then in the combat with the Razor Gore and the Illyrian Reavers, he has done 3 wounds to me. I've done 1 wound back to him, but I actually managed to stick on Leadership 5, which is quite nice. Also in that Beastman turn 4, in a last effort, the Gore Horde have charged the Phoenix Guard, and at this stage I wasn't overly worried about that, because obviously he'll likely have rerolls of his Primal Fury, and so do I with my higher initiative. He's better than me to wound, but I've got my ward save, so overall I sort of think I have this. But in the magic phase, he chucks down miasma as well, which I think I tried to dispel this, or I had to let it go, one of the two. But either way it went off, but he only rolled a 1, and we worked out that was the only thing which wasn't going to give him any benefit in this combat in the end, so it doesn't have any effect. And then he throws 6 dice at Transformation of Kadon, and now I'm a little bit worried because the Chimera is really going to add some punch to this unit of Gore. So he actually rolls a 19 on dice, and he gets a +1 for the Law attribute, but doesn't get his Irresistible Force. So I then throw all of my 6 dice at it, and I get 20 on dice, so it's exactly enough to stop it from going off, which is pretty fortunate for me there. And after combat, as you can see here, I've killed approximately 13 of his Gore, and he manages to kill 6 of my Phoenix Guard. And he also got my level 2 Metal Mage as well there. So I still have the same number of ranks, so he's no longer steadfast. He fails his leadership and flees, rolls really low, and I overrun him, take him with the unit, the standard and the BSB, and just the whole unit. And on to High Elf turn 4, I just move my stuff around, and the repeater bolt throwers wipe out the last of the Bestigor. So that's how the game ended. It was a real good game against Paul, and I know him very well. I played his Beastman army before, but I had a slightly different army list as was leading up to the tournament. The big winners in that game simply were the Fiery Convocation really, and the Phoenix, who tanked that bunker basically really well. So I was a bit lucky with the Phoenix Guard, because that could have gone terribly wrong with that transformation spell. Got a little bit ballsy moving up. I didn't really need to sit so close. I could have backed up a bit more and whatever else. But due to the limited time for the games, I mean, if he'd have beat them Phoenix Guard, he could have if he'd have broke them and run them down or whatever else and got behind my lines and I didn't get those points, it could be a big swing of events. I mean, I would have sort of had it, but just the game wouldn't have been long enough, and it would have just got away with them points. So all in all, it was a 20-0 win. So the draws went up for the final game, and against High Elves, and it's another pool. So this is the third and final game of the day, and I will have played 3 pools. So the next game be coming up soon.